Hey, so I have a question from section 3-2, if I remember correctly. Anyway, we're converting a base 10 number to either a base 6, a base 9, or a base 3. I think I'm planning to do two of these, A and B, and then I think you would feel good about doing C if you needed to. Okay, now we've done problems together where we converted from, say, base 6 to base 10, but this is backwards. So again, I'm starting with problem A. I want to convert 539. This is really the number 539 because that's base 10. So I'm not reading that 539 like I would if it was a base 6. This really is 539, and I want to convert that to base 6. Now think about what base 6 means. It's made up of numerals or digits, if you want to say that, and they're based on base 6 numbers. So what are base 6 numbers? Well, you could have a 6 to the 4th. I'm just randomly starting. I could have started 6 to the 5th or 6 to the 6th. We're just going to make a list. 6 to the 4th, 6 to the 3rd, 6 to the 2nd power, 6 to the 1st power, and then 6 to the 0. These are options. Now, it helps to know what those values are actually equal to. So when I calculate 6 to the 4th, I'm just using my calculator and my exponent button. I get 1,296. Notice that's already bigger than the number we're working with. So we're not going to use a 6 to the 4th, but maybe a 6 to the 3rd. I got 216. We know 6 squared is 36. 6 to the 1st is 6, and 6 to the 0 is 1. Now, you end up multiplying by 6 to the 4th, 6 to the 3rd, 6 squared, all the way down to convert base 6 back to a base 10. Well, this is backwards, base 10 to base 6, so we must divide. Remember, we've already decided 6 to the 4th is too big, so I'm going to cross that one out. But I need to know how many 6 to the 3rds fit into 539. What do? Well, I take 216 and divide that into 539. If you want to use your calculator, just really divide. Do 539 divided by 216 in your calculator. Now, I get a decimal, 2.49537,037, way more than you wanted to know, but the 2, the whole number 2, is what's important. So I just put a 2 on top, then I multiply 2 times 216, and I get 432. And then subtract. So 539 minus 432 gives me 107. Notice you couldn't divide again. So that's my 6 to the 3rds. Okay, now then what do? I take this leftover remainder, and now I'm going to see how many 6 squareds fit into there. So I'm going to divide by 36. If I want to cheat a little bit, I do 107 divided by 36 in my calculator, and I get 2 whole times. I really get a decimal, 2.97, but the 2 is the all that I can keep. Now 2 times 36 is 72, and then when I subtract, I get 35. And notice 36 will not go into 35. You're always going to have a remainder that you don't want to do anything else with other than scooting it over and see how many times 6 to the 1st goes in there. We know 6 goes into 35 5 times because 6 times 5 is 30. That gives me a remainder 5. And then I'm going to scoot that over. So notice what's happening is I'm taking my remainder and scooting over to the next value. So I'm going to, again, division problem with 5 underneath. What goes in front? A 1, right? Because 6 to the 0 is 1. How many 6 to the 0s or how many 1s fit into 5? Well, 5. And 1 times 5 is 5. Now, you should always have a remainder 0 when you get finished. Now, what does this mean about our answer? Well, remember, I've got these remainders circled, but that's not really what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is the quotient. So these are our digits for our base 6 number. So this is a 2, 2, 5, 5. That is my answer there. Now, I wouldn't type that in as a result unless I checked it. So now I'm trying to convert a base 6. I should have wrote the word, there it is. That's what that is. I'm trying to convert a base 6, which I would read 2255 base 6, back to a base 10 number. And remember, the trick there is, this is a 6 to the 0, 6 to the first, 6 to the second, 6 to the third. So if I check my work, it's 2 times 6 to the third, plus 2 times 6 to the second, plus 5 times 6 to the first, and finally 5 times 6 to the 0. Now, use your calculator. Make sure you know how to find the exponent button on your calculator. You can type it in probably just like this. Parentheses not even required, so 2 times 6 to the third plus 2 times 6 squared. If you do that, I promise you, you get that this is equal to 539. So we know that it checks out. All right, now let's do problem B, just to say we did, get extra practice with this, and then C, I think you can handle it on your own. But if not, you just send me a message and I'll be glad to do more of these problems. So I've got the base 10 number, 2,155. That is a base 10 because there's no little number written over here as the base. And we're converting that to base 9. Now, how do we build a base 9? Well, we do exponents of 9. So you could have a 9 to the 4th. Again, I'm randomly just picking a place to start. 9 to the 3rd, 9 to the 2nd, 9 to the 1st, and 9 to the 0 power. But it helps to know what those values are really equal to. So 9 to the 4th is 6,561, just using my calculator. 9 to the 3rd is 729. Now we know 9 squared is 81. 9 to the 1st is 9, and 9 to the 0 is 1. Y'all know anything to the 0 power is 1. Well, if you look at your list, look, I'm already too big. I'm not going to be using any 9 to the 4th, okay? But 9 to the 3rd, 729 is less than 2,155. So that's where I'm going to start my division. I'm going to divide 729 into 2,155. Now, recap, I'm going to type that in my calculator. 2,155 divided by 729 is 2 and some decimal. Now, we don't care about that decimal part. We just want to know how many whole times. So then 2 times 729 is 1,458. Remember, the next step for division in our division algorithm is to subtract, and that leaves me 697. Now, again, notice I cannot divide this into this one again. If you use your calculator to do this, as long as you take the whole number part of that quotient, this is always going to be less than this number, okay? So what is useful from that? Two things. This is going to be my, fourth digit in my base 9 number, because it represents my 9 to the 3rds. But my remainder, I have to keep working with. So I take this 697 and I move it to the next step, and I'm going to divide 697 by 9 squareds, which is 81. Now, how many times is 81 divided by 697? Again, if I cheat and use my calculator, because I'm just trying to save time, right? We could do this long division algorithm if we needed to, is 8 whole times. Ignore the decimal. Then we do 8 times 81. We know that's 648, or at least when we type it in. And we subtract and get 49. Okay, now notice again, I can't divide 81 into 49. So my next digit in my base 9 number is 8, and that represents the 9 squared column. But I'm not finished because I still have a remainder right here. So the 49 moves over, and we do division again. And now I'm looking at 9 to the 1st, which is 9 divided into 49. Now we know 9 goes into 49. Well, 9 times 5 is 54, so that's too big. So how about 9 times 5 is 45, my bad. So yeah, that works, right? 9 times 5 is 45. And then we subtract and get 4. Notice again, this number is smaller than this number. So my next digit in my base 9 number is 5. That represents the 9 to the 1st column, but I'm not finished because I don't have a remainder of 0. So I have to move this over to the next division. So 4, what am I dividing that by? 9 to the 0, which is 1. Now we know 1 goes into 4 times. 1 times 4 is 4, remainder 0. So my next digit And you have to do the division all the way down to represent every single column as 4. So I know that my answer, without checking it, should be 2, 8, 5, 4. All those quotients, but this is base 9. Now again, I think it would help before I type that in as my answer on the test or in the homework to really, really check this thing. So you have to work backwards. Again, this represents, the 4 represents 9 to the 0, the 5 represents 9 to the first, 8 represents 9 squared, and the 2 represents 9 to the third. So I'm going to say 2 times 9 to the third plus 8 times 9 to the second plus 5 times 9 to the first, finally plus 4 times 9 to the 0, which really is just 1. Type all that in my calculator, and I absolutely should get 2,155. Now remember, that is base 10, so we know it checks out. But the answer is right here. Okay, now if you have specific problems with those, you just let me know and I'll take a look at your work. I hope you have a wonderful day.